Ladies and gentlemen, we meet again. First time in this new year in Tafshin Pei Gimel, 5,783 years to the creation of the world, and we are looking forward to Parashat Vayelech. Parashat Vayelech comes in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and it is the final day of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. What does a man like Moshe Rabbeinu do on the final day of his life? So there are a few issues in this parasha, but he gives us the two final mitzvot. The two final mitzvot, which are so important and so interesting. We have to understand something very basic. We are unique. In what way? We have no other nationality that is linked to a specific religion, and there is no specific religion that is linked to a specific nationality. We were a people, we were a nation, Am Yisrael was a nation before we got the Torah, before we became a religion. But our religion is based on our nationhood. Our belongingness has got to do with who we are, where we've come from. Pesach is where we're coming from, where we come from. Shavuot is the book we got as a guideline, as a guiding manual to our life. And then comes Sukkot. We're coming towards Sukkot, and this parasha tells us, as I said, the last two mitzvot. What are the last two mitzvot? One mitzvah is Hakhel, gathering together and listening to the king reading from the Torah, which I'll speak about in a moment. And the last mitzvah is writing a Sefer Torah, that every Jewish person should write their own Sefer Torah. So today in the world of print, it's much easier because we can do the mitzvah simply by buying Jewish books, by buying a Chumash, by buying a Tanakh, and having the Jewish books accessible to us. The minute the Torah is not accessible, it's useless. The Torah has to be accessible. Therefore, everybody has to write their own Torah. If you can actually write a real Sefer Torah and donate it to some shul or some yeshiva, that's fantastic. That is the mitzvah from the Torah. But from rabbinic, from D'Rabbanan, it's enough to own, to buy, not only to inherit books, to go and buy Jewish books. It's the final mitzvah of the Torah. That means the whole Torah is not plugged into eternity until we get this mitzvah that is telling us you have to have books accessible, and the books go down from one generation to the next, and they're taught on and on. The mitzvah before the last, 612, is the mitzvah of Hakhel I'd like to speak about, because it's got to do with Chag Sukkot, which is coming up soon. And it's not just Chag Sukkot, it's the Chag Sukkot immediately after the Shemitah, the sabbatical, the seventh year. And that's what we had. We had a Shemitah year. Tafshin Pei Bet, 5,782, was a Shemitah year here in the land of Israel. We could not work the land. However, now it's over, and the Pasuk tells us that there was a special gathering. Hakhel means gathering, a gathering in the Beis HaMikdash on Chol HaMoed, on Shavuot, on Sukkot, when everybody came for Aliyah HaRegel, in any case for Sukkot. So they also got together, and the king used to read out the whole of Deuteronomy, the whole of Sefer Dvarim, and people were listening in. And this was a whole event, and they blew the horns. And it was a major event. Everybody was invited. Everybody, women and children, everybody were invited. And it was a replica. The Rambam tells us this was a replica of Har Sinai. That even though I personally never stood at Har Sinai, but not that I remember. And however, once every 7 years, the whole of Am Yisrael gets together and they hear from the king, the most prestigious person, with the trumpets and and it's a whole to do with everybody, and you strengthen your Jewish belongingness, your togetherness. We have this togetherness when we go together to Rosh Hashanah to shul, when we go together for Yom Kippur to shul, when we sit together in the sukkah with our family. This is the month of togetherness. But when it's after a year of Shemitah, it's even more togetherness. Why even more? On a practical level, Barbanel says that it is because it is Sukkot is Chag HaAsif, when we gather everything that's left from the field. But we've got nothing in the field because Shemitah. So we are available all to come to Jerusalem, but that's on a technical level. The Meshech Chochmah goes on a deeper level. So does the Kli Yakar, goes on a deeper level and says, this is the time of real unity. We have given up all our loans that the Shmitat Ksafim, we've given up our monies. We have opened our fields. Everybody can take whatever they want. This has been a year of socio-economic equality. We're now all equal, and we're now all together. And not only we're together, we know that Sukkot is the time of togetherness. From the famous story we were told already in kindergarten, that the Lulav and the Esrog and the Rovos and the Hadassim resemble all different types of Jews, and we take them all together and hold them together. And this is the height of togetherness. So at the height of togetherness, which is Chag HaSukkot, we get together once every 7 years and do a replica of Ma'amad HaSinai. What an exciting and amazing thing that is. And it is interesting to see that nowadays we do not have a king and we do not have a Beis HaMikdash, I'm afraid. So we try and do a replica of the replica, which means, for instance, here I live in Efrat. So next Sunday we have a get-together of all the schools in the central park here of Efrat, thousands of kids. And somebody will read from the Torah, and somebody else will blow the shofar, and we'll have and the Sefer Chinuch tells us that these two mitzvahs are so important because one is to give us the motivation. Hakel is to get together and the feeling of belongingness and get the motivation. I'm part of something big. I'm part of something important. And it'll give me motivation for the second issue, which is learn the Torah. The Torah is eternal and has eternal value. And we have a Torah at home. Everybody has to write their own Torah. So how does Moshe Rabbeinu end the Torah? By giving us the motivation and giving us accessibility to Torah. And with that, he says, keep up to us. And in that way, he plugs us into eternity. And that's why getting together in shul, getting together in our sukkah, getting together, being together, strengthening our Jewish identity through Torah and through these high holidays is the central issue in this week's Parsha, Shabbat Shalom.